Hello everyone and welcome. In this webinar, Creating Continuity and Efficiency in Uncertain Times, Rick Thorn and I will talk about collaborating using Worksoft in the new normal. We'll introduce connective automation, and then I'll go over some of the key features in Certify 11.5, and then what we provide in digital delivery services that can actually be done remotely, and we'll open up for Q&A. So we'll start out with Rick Thorn talking about collaborating using the Worksoft and the new normal. Rick?
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Thank you. And hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. And we are in a completely different situation than we were just a few short weeks ago. None of us are in the same room or even on the same campus. Our offices pretty much look like the picture you see there, except maybe the lights are out. We can't walk down the hall. Chris and I have an office, I don't know, four or five offices apart when we're in the headquarters building, and we can't, we're used to just getting up out of our chair, walking down to chat with each other when we have a question or an issue. And we obviously can't do that anymore, and neither can you. So when you're trying to pass automation around or pass a test around manually, you have to do that in a whole different way. We're all remote and working from home. So how can we help you with that collaboration using the Worksoft tools? It's not just about Zoom, Blue Jeans, and Teams. Those are the tools that we all use now, and the telephone, of course, to talk to each other and to collaborate. From the standpoint of automation, though, we have a platform to help you do that a little more efficiently. First of all, capturing an individual's work with Worksoft Capture allows you to create documentation with screenshots in either PDF or Word format, bring it into a tool to be able to analyze what's there and see, well, is the way I'm doing it the same? If Chris has the same job as I do, and the way I do the job, is it the same as the way he's doing it, or are they different? If they're different, how are they different? And which one is the correct one for automation? How do I figure that out? We've got that for you. And then, of course, bringing that into Certify for automation as well. Easy for this capture to be used by anybody to capture it. And Chris is going to show you a new version of capture that specifically is designed for business users and takes away some of the complexity that is inside of capture in order for the business users to be a little bit more effective, efficient with the product. The idea is that we want to help you automate from the beginning of a business process all the way to the end of it. In manual testing, we're used to doing individual steps. Like I create sales orders, and so maybe I'll just test whether or not sales orders work correctly. And Chris creates deliveries. So maybe he just tests whether or not deliveries work, and we maybe pass our work from one to the other in order to do an end-to-end. With automation, we're starting to be able to automate more than one step at a time. And with Worksoft, you're able to go across all the boundaries of departments and applications, even countries, in order to get the entire process end-to-end, thus enabling you to automate anything in your business. Next slide, please. Well, Chris, could you help us understand what we mean by connective automation?
Yes, Rick. So if we think about how we've been working, even though we're not in the same building, like Rick said, before we had multiple campuses and people in multiple countries, and so end-to-end processes spanned those things. So what I'd like to introduce you to is connective automation, one seamless platform for automated process discovery, automated testing, and RPA. We provide connective automation for the world's largest brands, combining the full life cycle of the business process from discovery to testing to execution in one codeless platform that is easy to use and accessible to non-technical team members. Our platform empowers QA to deliver flawless applications faster and more effectively, with the ability to repurpose the automation for more accurate and durable RPA in production. Both our testing and RPA are supported by automated process capture to create precise and reusable process documentation without interrupting business users' daily routines. So when we say connective automation, that's what we mean. How do we connect from discovering something to actually building automation and testing and then allowing that to be leveraged in RPA? We've seamlessly integrated the full life cycle of a business process from discovery to testing to RPA. What is the value of this connective automation? What is the value of going from discovery to testing RPA in one seamless platform? Well, it's all about the value and the ROI you get. You can actually reduce risk by automating your core business processes and validate them for high quality. So let's get the right things in production. You can accelerate your projects for faster upgrades and actually help your new implementations. And then efficiency. How much time are you saving daily, weekly, annually to actually not do things manually? Like, how can we save time and money to do that? Because let's face it, we all need a little bit more time to do that. Of course, this is based on our core principles of automation made easy. We want things to be easy to discover. So what are the automated processes we can capture as people are doing their daily work? We want them to be easy to maintain, change it once, change it everywhere. One big problem with automation is the maintenance behind it. It needs to be easy to scale. You want to execute hundreds of thousands of process steps per hour. So you really need to think about regression over a 6 or 8 hour window. I need to run lots and lots of steps overnight to actually fully regress the application. Of course, easy to deploy. It's very simple to convert your tests and automation to secure RPA when required. And then easy to integrate. We want to work across all the enterprise applications and web interfaces. And I think of integration as not only being the best at testing SAP and Worksoft and Workday and success factors, it's also integrating to all the applications, past the applications like ALMs and continuous delivery platforms itself. So think this is our codeless, easy to use, and is accessible to non-technical team members. And that's why we really focus on the easies. So now I'm going to show you some new things in Certify 11.5. If you're an existing customer, you notice it showed up on the download site a couple weeks ago. So what have we actually done lately to make it easier to collaborate across multiple teams and campuses? Well, one thing we got feedback from the field was around image objects. People like the ability to get strong attributes for objects in their existing automation, but sometimes there's just a button or an image or something on a PDF that you need to get to. So what we've done is we've expanded visual capture to create image objects in the editor inline, making it much easier and accessible to everyone. It's an easy workflow to create the objects while you're capturing, because if you you click on something it doesn't capture, that's the perfect time to do it. We'll also give you positive feedback on the OCR to show you how it's identified. The nice thing is these are fully versioned and aligned to the application windows and objects next to the normal attributes they're based on. So this looks like just anything else. So what I'm going to do is let's go walk over and look at one of these. So here I have a certified process. I'm going to right click and you'll see here's the new capture. You'll see there's an image object window and it allows me to pick different types of objects I want to create. I could create a button, I can create images, I can do text labels, all sorts of different things are available. What I'm going to do is start the wizard to actually start picking things on this screen. So I said, here's my label. I can trim it up a bit. I'll click the hourglass and I can see it'll highlight in red. So it actually positively identified the PO hash. And then I'll say accept that. And then I'll do the next step. What I'm interested in is finding a number. In this case, it happens to be the right. It could be to the left or anywhere around the page. We're just anchoring from there. I'll click the glasses again to get identification, accept it, and I'll save it. So now the big thing is I've now got a step that I can add to my capture. So I'm going to go highlight this. I'll do a control click. And notice I hovered over the numbers. The OCR engine grabbed the numbers for me and turned them into text. And now I can insert this into my capture. So ideally, if I run into anything that I can't work with, I can immediately do it. I've now imported it into a version of the application, the same I do with any other application. And what I'll do is I'll add a step below here. I'll put a comment to show you that the OCR text worked. So we can see the window. I'm going to change this from an input to a store text. So there's my text. Now I'll go pick my variable, my PO number. And notice I'll go mark the OCR checkbox. So this tells us to not only get the field, but actually OCR to get the value of it. You could just say, does it exist? But in this case, I want the value there. I'll save and now run. So I'll step through this to start with so you can see. I've run the step, the store worked. There's my variable that got set at runtime. And I'll continue running. Obviously, the last step, I displayed in the comment that I pulled the purchase order number. So what we've seen here is how this actually works. So let me go back to my presentation. Okay. So hopefully that was a good demonstration of how we could streamline image objects, right? A lot of people think this is something magic, but this has been in Certify for years, at least 4. We've now moved it from the core Certify into Capture because we think visual capture is the best place for technical people to actually work with these things. Now, this is something new and super cool. This is our 3rd generation of capture. This is literally the evolution of visual capture for business analysts, quality assurance, and subject matter experts who need to document processes and jumpstart their automation. So you'll notice on the right, a completely new user interface, completely redesigned and rethought. We streamlined the user interface specifically for the role of the business person, right? So we're really looking at how Worksoft is done and focusing new interfaces to be role-based. We want it to be easy for them to use capture, and they can capture things like SAP GUI and mobile and NetUI and Java and desktop apps and all those cool things. But the point is we want it to be ultra simple and easy for the business person to use, hence the new UI. We can see a nice big thumbnail in the middle. They can delete a step, shred data, add comments and such. So I'm going to go over and actually show you a demo of this. So you'll notice it's minimized. And look, it dropped down. Isn't that cool? So what I'll do is I'll start my capture. And what you'll notice is all the buttons I need easily. Comments, named activities, screenshots, I've got my menu. They're all put in easy to access so I can focus on what's important. So I'm now just going to start walking through my application. And if you're familiar with capture, you know that what happens is we activate the capture button. I start walking through the application. And as I start interacting, on the right, you'll see there'll be screenshots showing up of each element I've interacted with, the narratives created for me, and this is all done without any extra effort. I can actually use the up button and go see previous screens. I can go down to see what I've captured if I wasn't paying attention to that window when I was capturing itself. What we found is a lot of people said, I actually want to minimize this while I capture. It's distracting. So I actually minimized it. And now I'm going to continue my capture. You'll notice I don't see a degradation in my performance of the user interface. It's still quite responsive and pleasant to use. I'll go enter my date and now come back. And I can see it's actually been capturing in the background. So I was able to hide it and keep doing my work. So it's kind of up to the user. We found talking to tons of customers who had scaled this to use tens to hundreds of people actually using capture. What were the things they wanted from the business persona role? Well, they wanted to be easy to use. They wanted to actually just put comments online. So they can add a comment. So think about your process documentation. If I'm explaining this, maybe changing an agile acceptance criteria to a test case. I may be doing this to create a training document for people. I want to put comments inside of there. Nice thing, I can put multiple comments, and they'll all show up in the documentation that's generated. So the idea is let the business person describe what they're doing, but with minimal effort, right? I didn't have to go cut screenshots and paste them into Word. I didn't have to type narratives and all that. All that manual work was handled for me. So the order numbers at the bottom, I'll click Live Touch and I'll go highlight that because I want a verification step to be created for my test. So I'm actually going to say put a comment here. So I'll tell the person automating or another person who's looking at this from a test case perspective, what does the success message mean? Well, I can actually see that the status message, and I can go take a screenshot of the desktop, all these things that I want to do. Now, from an editing perspective, you'll see I can shred the step data and shred the screens. I'll roll up the screen a little bit, and what you can see is that I actually have the image and I have the data. So if there's something that you say, maybe you're going to share this with someone, you don't want to share the purchase order number in the documentation, but you want the step to be there, you can actually just say shred and remove. I'll go in and send this to analyze. I'll put my description in so it looks nice on my printed documentation, and I'll click save. I'll log in, and there we go. So I'll come over to analyze, so I can see here's my captures in the last 30 minutes. I'll refresh, there it is. Now I can see this is the business activity was auto-generated, the steps. I can also see that the customer reference number, the data is missing, and the screenshot is missing because I shredded that data, right? The documentation is automatically generated. I'll click that, and now I can scroll down. There's my BPMN diagram of the user activities, and then we'll see there's a window and the object for each thing I've interacted with, along with the narratives themselves. And at the bottom, you'll see the comments that I've created. Let's get there. Yep, there's all the way bottom. So you can see the comments I've created, the narratives, and my live touch of what I was going to verify. So the idea is this allows us to do our next capture, keep doing our next job, and then keep going. So the idea is we will make this super easy for a business person with this new role-based or persona-based user interface. Granted, this is a third generation. We had the initial capture with the capture 2, which was the visual capture. Now we have business capture. This is a complement to visual capture. Obviously, I've already demoed the other one. So this one is definitely a complement to that one. So they'll both be around in the product line. And now Magic Search. So Magic Search is an AI-driven search that allows you to find similar processes to ensure you don't recreate the same tests. This is the #1 question I get from people. Okay, I've done all these captures, Chris. How do I know if someone else has already captured this? How do I know if this is a similar business process? And we've done things in Analyze to define business activities automatically, and we show you in the Harmony view the graphical representation of how your business processes are similar or dissimilar. But when it comes to actually doing the automation, people say, I want to make sure that I actually haven't automated this already. The hardest thing to do is like memorize all that. So what do we do? Well, we actually call over the cue ball. Hey, Ty, you're working on sales orders. Have you already done a sales order of an OR order type or a different order type? Have you done one with hazardous materials or frozen chain shipping and things like that? Well, with this new normal, I can't just call around the cube, say, has anybody done this? I can't remember where it would be in the structure and things like that. So this is really a big help when you're working remote. So basically, Magic Search compares the processes not based on the structure, like lines of code, like process diffing does, like a developer does. It actually looks at the collective of the objects and the actions. The AI routine Needleman is used to actually ignore specific values and look at variable matching itself. We search processes and sub-processes, so you can actually answer the question, hey, has anybody else automated this, right? So let me show you how that works. So I have actually a capture here with lots of different steps in it. You can see there's multiple business activities, so blue squares, and I've got data itself and comments. I'm going to go through and send this to certify, just like I normally would, doing a capture. I can see there's different applications. I'm going to say create sub-processes for me, so each business activity automatically gets split, and it goes through and it creates the objects, the actions, or correlates to existing ones, and now I have a certified process. So if I look at this Magic Search 2, I can see I have multiple sub-processes, one for each business activity. So in terms of automation, I need to see, has someone already done the home screen? Has someone done the sales order screen? You know, has someone actually created the business overview? These different things like that. So if I want to like leverage existing assets, I may have to know where those processes already exist. I'm going to right-click and say Magic Search. Now, the trick is, I'm in my sandbox folder, Chris Kraus, and you'll see that I'm going to go search over in Ty Henson's box, because I know Ty's been working on this. So there you go, you can see that. I'm actually going to say include the sub-processes. So this is the most exhaustive search, and it takes the most time, which is fine. Ty has 594 processes. So when I say sub-processes, so my process was completed with 30 different steps, okay? When I say sub-processes, it's going to include my sub-processes, but it's also going to look at all of Ty's processes. And if he has a process that has a sub-process, has a sub-process, has a sub-process, and so on, it doesn't matter. What we're presenting to the AI routine, Needleman, is we're going to take all the windows and the objects and the actions, and we're going to start correlating on that. And we want to find out, do I have any other processes, including all their sub-processes, their children, that is testing the same windows? Are they interacting with the same objects, whether it's tables or radio buttons or click buttons? It doesn't matter. We're going to correlate all those things and then score them. So you can see I'm at 360 of 594. So quite honestly, it takes about a minute and a half, but that's not bad. It's actually doing a lot of work in the background. This is not a simple rote, find, compare. We're actually using an AI routine to do this. So we will get a score for this. And you'll notice the score is probably never going to be 100. The score is a weight against how similar or dissimilar and how many gaps are between different things. So when I get presented, I'll see what is found inside of Ty's folder and all of his subfolders itself. So it looks like it's almost done. So I'm at 568. There we go. So matching score of 18, 14, 13. You can see there's a slider which will change, like filtering how much we match. So I can see he had a Fiori order and a simple order. Well, if I double click, it'll take me to process compare. So I can see my process on the left has all the sub-processes and the actions. His on the right was a linear process. There was no sub-processes. So the structure is actually very different from a process compare, right? But we both had the same hard-coded data, but it doesn't actually look at the data itself. Now, I look at, so that's probably not helpful. That was probably something we were just practicing with. So I'm going to open up the simple order. I'll double click. Okay, so his on the right is a sub-process. He has different sub-process names than I do. That's fine. Now I can see that he's got some hard-coded data. If I start opening up some more of his, so he's actually got some sub-processes for the create sales document that are variabilized, where I have hard-coded data. So Magic Search understands to ignore the data because you're looking at interactions with the user interface itself. Okay, so that's interesting. So maybe I should actually go compare one of my specific processes. So I'm going to compare just the create sales document. I'm going to take off this include sub-processes and just say, do I have something that matches? Okay, so there we go. So it looks like he's got a process that's variabilized. I have a process that's not. So that's actually probably a good candidate for me to use. I can say show in Finder. So I will navigate so I can actually see his process and see the data itself. That's interesting. So maybe that means I should just drag that into my process and replace mine. It's kind of up to you. A lot of workflows available there. So I'll scroll back up to my sandbox again. And we can look at another process. So I'll click the sales order overview. I'll do a magic search on that. And I can see he's got a similar sales order. Wow, match of 72. So that's a pretty high match score. So it looks like I've got a couple minuses, he's got a couple pluses. So we're similar, but we're not exactly the same. So what that means is maybe I need to take his process and add a field to it because I've got an extra field he doesn't do. But this really allows me to do that type of, have I already automated this? How can I optimize? Okay. We have the ability to include step order and system steps like comments in that and duplicate steps. But ideally, your standard search is defaulted and you just decide you want sub-processes or steps and you'll be good to go. So that's what we've done with Magic Search. And I really, really, really do feel this is what's going to allow people to say, has anybody else automated this? When you can't like walk over and talk to someone in the cube, maybe you're new to a project, you don't know how they structured their existing automation. It's really going to save tons of time doing all of that. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to pass back to Rick to talk about some of the digital delivery services we have at Worksoft. So ideally, these are things like when you need help, we can go digital. So we can be virtually there with you instead of physically there. So Rick?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And that's exactly right. I mean, the question that you may have, and a lot of people have asked us is, since you can't come to my office anymore, how can I take advantage of Worksoft services in this day and age? We've actually been delivering all of the services that we offer remotely for many years. We just haven't exclusively delivered them digitally until now. So everything from workshops and training, installation, support, everything is available. And don't forget, if you need some training, while we will offer remote classrooms, you can go to Worksoft University on our website and take classes digitally there too at your own convenience. Next slide, please. So let's just summarize what a few of these are. Obviously, if you're already using our products, you know that we do installation remotely and always have. So that you don't need to schedule somebody to be there. We just walk you through it and help you to test it and make sure it's working out before you get started. Then when you're ready to do workshops, we'll be able to do those as well. So we have a couple of different workshops that we offer, best practices to teach you the right way to use all of the tools in the Worksoft platform in order to get maximum value out of them. Now, there's no right and wrong way to use a tool, obviously, if you just want to get your work done. But there are better ways to do it if you want to maximize the return on that investment, doing things like making best use of existing processes like Chris was showing you. Find one that somebody else has already built instead of rebuilding that one. Is it easier to rebuild it or find it? It's up to you. But I'll tell you what it does make it easier is maintaining. And that's one of the things later on, if I've got 100 different versions of that create order and something changes in my create order process, having to change it on 100 is a lot less efficient than having to change it one place and have all of the different end-to-ends that use that one child process be automatically updated. So those are an example of best practices. Capture quickly, teaching the business people and others to be able to capture what they're doing in a way that is consumable both for the documentation that Chris showed you and then also for importing it into Certify like Chris just did in order to create automation from it. Next slide. So I mentioned training classes online, but we also have an electronic classroom where we can literally have an instructor seeing all of the students' remote desktops that we provide with Certify already installed and ready for you to use for the training. And be able to help you with your work while you're doing the exercises and so on, as well as, of course, sharing a screen in order to show you how to do it in the first place. After you've taken a class, you're not quite ready to just go out and uncoached be able to start using it. It's like any other software. As you're starting to use it after class, questions automatically come up. So we offer coaching and mentoring services as well, so that somebody can, so to speak, be at your elbow virtually in order to help answer questions as you're getting your experience built up. Once you've gotten that experience built up and you're very confident and a super user of Worksoft products, you might want to post that accomplishment by achieving Worksoft Automation Certified. We offer a live proctored test environment so that you can be assured that anybody that has that certification has gotten it very honestly and very well, and it's there's no way that that somebody could have cheated on it and so forth. So that's all done for you, again, from your own laptop in your own office at home. And finally, the last slide I think here is about test development and best practices review. So if you need some assistance in building out your test body of tests with Worksoft tools, we have a team of people that are ready to help you and can do that remotely as well. If you've gotten a partway down the road in your project and you're not sure, gosh, are we doing this the right way? Are we doing this in a way that's going to get us that best possible return on our investment? You can engage us to do a review to find out what areas you're doing really, really well, what areas you might look to do some changes in order to improve the return you're getting from your investment in Worksoft platform.